Ooh,
How's it going there, Mike?
it is good. How are you?
Doing great. Can't
I
complain.
need to. I I sit here and I track how things are looking on LinkedIn as well. Oh, there we are. So I'm always got to have that up and running. Yeah, what's the weather like in Idaho these days?
Oh, it's been crazy. So it started out the beginning of this week where it was freezing. It was, mid 20s, and then last couple of days it's been in the 60s or 70s, and then today it's back to freezing. So we're just not 100% sure what it's deciding to do.
That is, well, we're going to have that in Chicago this weekend. We're going to be up in the 60s. Very
Yeah.
much looking forward to that. Um, in the summer, it gets pretty warm around your part, though, right? It's kind of high desert, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it'll average high 90s, hundreds.
Wow.
So, but I guess I'm kind of used to it by now.
Yes. Yeah. Is
I'll
that
take
where
that
you
over snow any day.
is that where you grew up?
Yep, it is. And then I spent a summer over in Sevilla in Spain as well,
Wow.
where their average is about 120. So 100 is nothing compared to that.
Sevilla is one of my favorite places. The orange blossoms. We were there in the spring, right around Easter, and the orange
Yep.
blossoms were amazing.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Excellent. Well, it is noon. It is Friday. That means we have the Friday Smart Market call. Welcome, everyone. Very excited to have Logan Stockwell with us this week from Xmark Building Products. And we're going to be talking about some, well, we call it APAC, Asian Pacific OSB. But before we do that, like to talk a little bit about what's happening in the market, talk about the trade of the week. And I'm not going to talk about one trade. I'm going to talk about many trades. The hands down most popular item on the platform all week long was OSB. And, both 7/16 and 23/32 really dominated. We had quite a bit of Euro flooring transacting on the platform this week. Um, but it seems as though, and the people buying and selling this are obviously outside of the contracts from the mills, which that's a whole different topic when the mills, sell it on contract. And then if you have excess wood on your contract, people are using the power of our digital platform to move that. And what's really been fascinating for me to see is how there's pockets around the United States where, maybe some building had slowed down a little bit and they have some excess and they go to areas where it's really ramping up, which we see quite a bit of activity west of the Rockies right now.
Yeah, and that's one thing that we've noticed when, as part of your exchange, that we've loved is we've shipped lumber from here in Idaho over to the East Coast, and it's just a market that typically you just don't look at seeing that far away.
Well, look, as a human, you can only do so much. You have so much time in the day. You can only make so many phone calls or communications. The power of the digital network is you're connected to everyone instantly.
Yeah.
And you're connected to people who you probably would, on the surface, think it's a low probability of making a sale to. So why would you spend the time on that?
Yeah, that's for sure. And it's been a wonderful program to be part of.
Excellent. So let's talk about Xmark. I'm going to share my screen real quick here and figure out why Logan is actually on the show here. All right, if Jory, if you could, there we go. So this is just the Xmark website. So Logan, tell us a little bit about yourself and about Xmark.
Yeah, so I've been with Xmark for about 6 years now. And Xmark originally got their start about 30 years ago in the plumbing products, where our founder was looking at the plumbing industry and was seeing all these valves that were made out of brass. And he figured out a way to develop them out of plastic and just kept innovating and innovating. And that's what Xmark has been since its conception, is how do we take something that's standard or stagnant in the building material industry, and how do we take it to the next step to make it easier, to make it a better product. And so we started in plumbing, and then we went over to our commercial lighting products that we distribute amongst the U.S. And then about 2 years ago, we were seeing a potential opportunity in the engineered wood products. And we started getting into that primarily in I-joists. But when we were doing the I-joists, we realized that we had to have some engineered OSB. And so that's what we've been starting. And then we're still going through the engineering process on the I-joist to be able to get that to the U.S. standards.
But yeah, we all know that OSB is a big component in I-joists. We see that the major OSB producers tend to cross pollinate. They have I-joists in their product offering as well. So that makes sense, of course. Now, when you started looking at this, why did you choose lumber? Why the engineered side? Were people coming to you, or what did the company see?
Yeah, so we have a close friend of ours that we worked with on the plumbing side, that he's general contractor, and he was just struggling to get I-joists at a reasonable cost, or quite frankly, just get them. And so he asked us, okay, can you look into getting these I-joists for us? And so we tracked down some manufacturers and over there in the Asia Pacific area, and we saw that, okay, we can make them, we can get as many truckloads as we want, but we need to have them engineered to U.S. standards.
Correct.
And that's where this whole process has started. And it's been a lengthy process of going through the engineering with the International Code Council and making sure that everything meets up to that standard that the U.S. has.
Yeah, for sure. That thankfully we have building codes, because we know that structures are going to be safe to live in and they're going to last. But they definitely can create a barrier to entry for this market. So you have to go through the processes, obviously. I'm going to jump over. Well, so let's just, I'm going to stop sharing for a second here. Let's talk about the OSB that you're bringing in. What does someone need to know about this particular OSB?
I think the biggest thing, the important thing, is that it is rated to the PS218 standard, that is the U.S. standard. That you look at our OSB, and it's a beautiful product. It's got the cut lines, it's got the screen side. It looks like something that you would see coming from a U.S. or a Canadian mill. It's not much different at all.
It's, what, you said that. I know I have pictures of it, and I'm going to get those pictures actually sent over to my email so I can bring them up. I meant to do this before, and I just realized I forgot. But let's talk about this PS2 standard. I'm going to do another screen share here real quick. I'm going to do a window, boom, share. All right, if we could bring that up. I think it's really important to understand what it means to be grade marked, standard, certified. So let's start with the standard first. And the PS218 is the performance standard for wood structural panels. And this is a standard that is developed by the National Institute of Standards and Technologies, the NIST, along with the U.S. Department of Commerce.
Yeah, I mean, this was made because we have, like you had mentioned earlier, we have to have safety in our buildings. We have to know that they're going to last, and we don't want subpar product going up. So, I mean, that's why it took us the better part of a year to get all of this engineering done, to make sure that it is something that we're confident in, that we feel safe to put on our own houses. That, if I was to build my family a house out of our OSB, I wouldn't worry about it falling one bit.
Right. And so first thing we have is the government, National Institute of Standards and Technology, says, look, if your product can perform to these standards, it will be accepted into these building codes. Great. Now you have to go to the next step, which is certification of the standard. So, what does that all entail?
So here in the U.S. and Canada, it's pretty easy. There's a lot of different agencies that you can go through to do that. The most common is, APA and TICO. But over in the Asia Pacific market, it's not necessarily that easy. So we actually went back to the International Code Council and used their engineering services department to get that certified, where they're the ones that they give that ISO 7000 designation. They're the ones that look at the UPC and the UL across varying countries, and we're able to utilize their engineering services to ensure that it did meet to US standards.
All right, perfect. Yeah, if we could share that screen for a second, you're going to see who the International Code Council is. Jor, if you could share that screen, that'd be great. Um, so these are the important things to know. First and foremost, it is built to a government standard, which is great, of course. And then the second thing is that it is certified by a third party.
Correct. Yeah, and we had to go through a whole mill inspection process, and during the milling process, I mean, there's some pretty intensive inspections going on at every single step, from the chipping of the lumber to how the chips are sorted to the final MDI resin being applied.
Yeah, absolutely. And wow, it's almost like you've got the recipe, and then you've got the cook, and there has to be someone in. There's another agency that says, okay, we know the recipe, we know the cook, and we are going to oversee them and make sure that what comes out is the right product.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's take a look here at the stamp. I got it right here. So this is a view of the stamp. I'm going to zoom in so everyone can see first. Where's my little zoomer here? There we go. Okay, so the first thing we see is XBP, Exmark Building Products. That's the brand. That is the same as if this was Georgia Pacific or Weyerhaeuser or LP or West Fraser. So the brand, XBP. Now here, this is the international code.
Let me double check. That's one of the branches of the International Code Council. They have so many different acronyms.
Right. So that's the agency that is certified this stamp.
Correct. So it's the International Certificate Testing and Technology, one of the divisions of the International Code Council.
All right. So then we're moving on. It's rated sheeting. 48 by 24 is the size for spacing. Correct. Exposure 1. We all know. Everyone knows what exposure 1 is as far as durability in weather. Here's your thickness. Now here's the important part. Here's the standard to which this was built. It is the PS2 18 sheathing. And, it's going to go through housing and urban development, all these other agencies that would certify this PS2. Not certify, but agree to the PS2.
Yeah, and that HUD standard was really important for us because you have to be able to put it on houses. That's what OSB is primarily used for. And so if you can't put it on those houses, and specifically we had a friend that was doing it on low-income housing off of government contracts, they required that HUD approval. And so it just really opens it up to a wider market.
That's so cool. So then, then we've got more information here. And then this is kind of what I'm starting to like, is where the fiber comes from.
Correct.
Sustainably harvest in New Zealand.
Yeah, it's a new product that's coming here to the U.S. out of New Zealand. It's not something that's been done before, simply because the U.S. market and Canadian markets just never needed it. But now with all the turmoil that we have going on, it has really given us an opportunity to spotlight New Zealand and get that into the U.S. market.
And the particular fiber type, it's poplar, correct?
It is. It's a poplar, but it's not a standard poplar that we have here in the U.S. So I mean, I've showed this to people, and they look at it and they think it looks like a harder aspen or something similar, where it's a different species of poplar than we're accustomed to.
Got it. And typically in North America, the OSB that would be coming out of Canada or the northern part of the states is going to have quite a bit of pine in it, and definitely will have some aspen in it as well. But then when you go down south, it's going to be pretty much southern yellow pine, loblolly pine.
Yeah. So I mean, when people get our OSB, one of the comments that I always get out of it is just how hard that this OSB truly is because of that poplar, that it takes a little bit more to nail through it or to screw through it. But that also gives it a quite a bit increase in structural integrity, really.
Excellent. So then you got your strength axis this direction and X Marco. But I think what's really important is this side down. That tells me something, that this is screen back.
Correct. Yeah,
So
we want it to look like exactly what people are accustomed getting here in the U.S. and Canada.
yeah, I remember back in the early 2000s, we had brought in some OSB from Europe, and it was very well made. There was no questions about it, but it was super smooth on both sides, and
Yeah,
it really made it challenging for a roofing application. Um,
definitely.
it was just too slick. And maybe what people don't understand too is the reason the European OSB generally is smooth on both sides is that it's made in a continuous press, and in the United States, and obviously in this application, it's made in a one, like a square press. So they make it all at a bunch at once, and they're able to put a screen back on when they do that. All right, I'm going to show some pictures now. Picture time. Where'd I go?
So jumping over to the comments, if I can, real quick, Mike.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
Matt is asking, what ports that we have it in specifically, and currently we do have a list on the Materials Exchange, and we're hitting four ports right now. We're hitting Tacoma, Washington, Oakland, California, Houston, Texas, and Wilmington, Delaware at the moment. And we're working on adding more ports as our demand grows as well. I know currently I'm looking at adding into a port in Florida because we've had some interest for 23/32 or 3/4 out of that Florida region.
Oh, and that's what's so cool about the product is that once you put something on the water, it basically can go anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
we can hit anywhere. I mean, we've even shipped up to, St. Louis, Missouri before, shipped up that Mississippi River.
So you know what? Let's just see if I can zoom in. Sure, I can zoom in. You can get a look at the product. It doesn't look anything substantially different than what you would see um, on a North American OSB. Jump over here. Here's the grade stamp. In this case, it's 7/16, but you can see it. Has the PS2 stamp on it as well. Well, it should
Yeah.
have little.
Yeah, it definitely has the PS2, and that one I think is actually for our 7/16, like you had mentioned. And then like Ash is asking in the comments is that the chips are a little bit larger on the surface, and it's an interesting, almost a cultural thing from talking with the manufacturer, is that they really like the beauty of the larger chips on the surface. And so they have three different categories of chips, and the largest category is meant to be the surface chips, and the two smaller categories are the interior chips.
Got it. All right, so we know that it has the proper standard. We know that it's been certified by agencies from North America. Now we know that it is usable in HUD and usable for residential application. We also know the fiber comes from New Zealand. Where is this stuff manufactured?
So it's manufactured, the end manufacturing is done in Asia, and then it's sent over here to the United States to be ready to put on.
Hence the name Asia Pacific.
Correct.
New Zealand doesn't officially count as an Asian country. It's more of a Pacific. On our platform, we call it the APAC, APAC OSB. Um, but there, I think if you put these side by side. Not think. I know you put these side by side with OSB here in North America. They're pretty much going to look the same, perform the same. Um, the any building inspector can't argue with the code. Um,
And what we've seen is building inspectors, for the most part, they don't even ask. They see the stamp and they're just like, okay, yeah, it's PS2, it's good to go.
Excellent. All right. So the availability is, I mean, obviously it's waterborne. So it's going to be, on the edges of the country.
Correct.
And being that it is coming out of Asia, the West Coast is probably the easiest, but it's not coming in break bulk, which I think is an important thing to distinguish too. While break bulk sometimes can be less expensive, it definitely opens up opportunities for exposure while on the ocean. So it's coming in containers. It's well protected. I mean, tell us a little bit about the banding. It's banded up.
Yeah, so we have 4 poly bands that wrap around on the 8-foot side, or on the 8-foot length, and then we have 2 poly bands that go around the overall length of it as well. So we have 4 on the 4-foot side, and then 2 on the 8-foot section to really make sure while it's in that container, while it's coming overseas and it's getting jostled by the waves, we don't want to have any of these break. We want it to get to the client or to the end customer and have it just in pristine condition.
That's phenomenal. Let's talk a little bit about pricing, lead time. So first, lead time. Yeah, go ahead with that.
So currently, what we're looking at is we're shooting for a 6-week lead time, and if we can get it down from that, fantastic. A lot of it depends on when it's ordered and when the next ship is leaving, because we've had it come in 4 weeks before, and then we've had it unfortunately take up to 8 weeks, and so a lot of timing is involved on that side. So if we shoot for that 6 to 8 week time, then people know exactly, okay, it's coming here. We know it's going to get here in that time frame. So it gives people time to plan out their jobs as well.
All right, and then current pricing. I know you've got some up on the platform. Let's take a quick look. We are Tacoma, Washington. It's offered at $1,215 per 1,000 square feet.
Yeah.
7/16 and $2,150 on 23/32 TNG.
Correct. Yeah, we see our pricing on the 7/16 and we know we're lower, but what we're trying to do is get out and establish our brand, and we want people to want to use it, and so we're keeping our price low simply just to get it out to people.
How often, speaking of the brand and the certification, how often does the factory get checked on making sure that they're at the best practices?
They get checked daily. So, I mean, at every single step of manufacturing, they have somebody that's there that they have to take pictures and take engineering that they then have to send to the ICC. And so they have a dedicated code compliance person in that factory. And then the ICC will then go through once a week to do a factory walkthrough to review their engineering and making sure that everything is staying up to check.
And then, gosh forbid, let's say there was an issue with the product. Who stands behind the product themselves?
Exmark stands behind it.
And when you say you stand behind it, what does that exactly mean?
So if it gets to the end consumer and right at the beginning they don't like it, we'll buy it back and we'll send it out we'll get it to another client in the area. And if it comes down to where it's failing, well, it won't fail because of the engineering that it's done to. I've talked with the International Code Council about that extensively, and they're certain that this engineering will never fail.
And I mean, hence the reason you go through that process and you work with a legitimate company, a
Correct.
certification company, right?
Yeah.
Um, all right, so this, I mean, I think there's no question that this is a product that can be used anywhere. Oh, by the way, the real version is going to real version. The version we're offering on the platform has nailing lines going both directions. Correct.
Correct. Yep. And we've actually had clients ask us before about putting nailing lines on both sides, and that is a possibility if it's something that people want as well.
I think that's one of the cool things is if you want something a little different, this is it's, at this stage it's kind of custom. We could do some different things. Um, Capacity. What like
Oh man,
overall capacity? What could really come to the United States if we need this?
if we really ramped it up, I mean, we could be bringing in 1,000, 1,500 truckloads a month. I mean, this mill, if they were here in North America, they would be one of the largest mills in North America. So I mean, they have excess capacity and they're ready just to crank it up and run full throttle with us and really start getting into this U.S. market. They've primarily been in the European market, South America, and the Asian market, and it's been hard to break into the U.S. market.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, let's shift gears just a little bit. Talk forward. Um, at the beginning we were discussing engineered wood and eye joists. What's the crystal ball say on when we could see an engineered product coming to the United States?
So we're looking at the OSB. It's 6 weeks, 6 weeks ish from time of work. And looking at eye joists, we've had a lot of requests for eye joists. I mean, we've had people tell us that eye joists are worth their weight in gold right now. So eye joists, we've really wanted to hit it, but that engineering is so extensive that it's just taken nearly a year to get done. And so we're hoping at the end of quarter 2 or early quarter 3 to be able to get these eye joists over here to the U.S.
Fantastic. All right, well let's wrap up with the normal question we ask everybody, all the guests on the show. What is Logan what are you seeing that maybe other people don't see, or what do you anticipate in the future here for this industry?
So what I'm thinking is that what's already happening is people are having to look outside of their normal supply channels, and they're going to have to turn to different types of product. And I think 2 years from now, or hopefully even a year from now, people are going to look at our Asian Pacific lumber, and they're not even going to bat an eye at it anymore. I think that's where it's going to be, where they just accept this new product, because we've seen that we can't depend on U.S. and Canadian stock all the time, because otherwise we end up in situations like this where we have a huge shortage on the cash market.
Right, and you know this is not a bash on the North American producers at all, but
Correct.
they're running full out right now,
Yep.
and they're creating innovative products that they're moving the design and moving the construction methods forward, and which is absolutely fantastic. But
Yeah.
in doing such, to add extra production onto the market means to ramp up a whole new mill, and it's not
It's
just a
hard to
few.
do that.
Right, it's not just a few dollars.
Yeah.
So, and it's
And the
not
logistics issues that have been here in the U.S. I mean, that they have challenge after challenge that we just don't necessarily have. We don't have those logistics issues with our Asian Pacific. We don't have to worry about how are we trucking it from the mill to the port. And once it gets here to port, we have a month to be able to establish our logistics to get it to the customer. Whereas with the markets here in the U.S., they truly are doing everything that they can. It's just we're constrained by with what we have.
absolutely, and supply and demand. The market price gets kept in check ish, kind of in control by the forces of supply and demand. And when supply is not elastic enough, when it can't add more domestically, you have to look for other ways to get more supply into the market. And this is a fantastic way to get an equivalent product, basically
Yeah.
the same product, into the market. And what I recommend to any of the people listening is, my gosh, give it a try, because it could change the game for you. It probably make you more money because you may not find yourself in a situation that you would run out of product.
Yeah, I mean they have the time to be able to plan out their jobs and know exactly what they need. And I mean, I'd love to get on the phone with anybody that has any further questions and really just answer it and just help them to understand how good this product truly is.
And firm price. Uh,
Yep. The price
That's
is the price is unbeatable right now, honestly. It's hard to get any cash market lumber at 1,300 to 1,000 for a 7/16 right now.
and that's the 6 week price. And let's say I came in and I'm like, I will pay that for the next 6 months. Is that a possibility?
There's a good chance that we can get it to that price. I mean, my mill and my raw material cost hasn't changed for a year and a half. The only thing that does change is the shipping side on bringing it in from port to port. And so with everything that's going on in Eastern Europe, we're going to see a shortage of the European lumber, but we're also seeing fuel costs potentially looking at going up. And so there's going to be a little bit of a trade there where price in the US might go up a little bit, and so the price there might match. But at the same time, we also might go down in price over the next 6 months. And I'd hate to lock in a price with a client over 6 months and then tell them 4 months down the road I can give them a better price.
Right, for sure. Um, but it is possible. We could do some firm pricing on this. Okay, this product's available right now on Materials Exchange. You can reach out to us, reach out to Logan for more information. Um, you know, Number one, we really appreciate the support that Logan and Xmark has given Materials Exchange. This product is exclusively going through Materials Exchange. Um, so feel free to reach out to Logan without a doubt. But Logan and the Xmark folks understand the power of our digital market and why it's going to make it makes their entrance into this marketplace just that much easier.
It truly does, and that's why we love working with you guys. And it's been a wonderful program from the start.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, Logan. Appreciate the time today. Any questions, reach out to us. If there aren't any other questions, let's wrap this up, and we will see you guys next week. Have a safe week. Bye,
Awesome.
everyone.
Thanks, Mike.